First of all, thanks to everyone who's joining us today. I'm Christy Kirk. You haven't seen me before on the Daily Connection, but I'll be here regularly over the next few weeks as Weaving Influence connects with you every day and brings you great thought leaders in the world of leadership and business. And we're doing this because we understand how difficult it can be right now. And we also understand how challenging it can be for many of you who are working from home for the first time, and it can feel alone and disorienting. And we're hoping that connecting with us and our guests every day will help you feel supported and help support your growth during this difficult time too. And as you're logging in, we want to invite you to share where you're calling from and also take a moment to tell us what you're grateful for today so we can really stay positive together during this time. And just a quick reminder, you'll want to select all panelists and attendees as you're typing in the chat so everyone can see your comments. But we'd love to hear where you're from and what you're grateful for today. And as we get started, a few other notes. If you want to share on social, that's wonderful. We hope you do. And we invite you to use the hashtag #TheDailyConnection. We hope you'll join our Facebook group, which is also called The Daily Connection, to continue these conversations throughout the series and beyond. And we hope you'll share an invitation to register for the series with your friends and colleagues. So we're grateful you're here today. And our guest today is Paul Thornton. And Paul, we're really grateful to have you here. Paul is an author, speaker, and adjunct professor at Springfield College. He's designed and conducted management and leadership programs for Palmer Foundry, UMass Medical School, Mercy Health Systems, the Kuwait Oil Corporation, Human Services Forum, Sunshine Village, and United Technologies Corporation. Earlier in his career, he was a manager at human resources for the Hamilton Standard Division of United Technologies. He was also involved in staffing, training, and developing managers, assessment centers, and succession planning. On 2 occasions, he received a United Technologies Award for Extraordinary Management Effectiveness. And we're going to talk about managing and leading today, so you can see that Paul has a tremendous experience and value to add here. He's published articles in the Leader to Leader Journal, Engineering Manager, Management Review, Leadership Excellence, Electronic Engineering Times, the Toastmaster, USA Today, and the CEO Refresher. He is the author of 15 books, including Precise Leaders Get Results, Management Principles and Practices, and Leadership Off the Wall. And he has a new book coming in May of this year. In addition, you can check out some management and leadership videos that he has posted on YouTube. So lots of great stuff from Paul in the world. And we're so excited to have you with us here today, Paul.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I've attended several of these daily seminars or webinars, and they're super. And I think it's great. And I welcome all the people that are on the line. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to talk today about the 3D leadership model. And I guess my first question is, what is the difference between a manager and a leader?
Well, if you go to that next slide, I think a manager uses current methods, procedures, approaches to get the job done. Leaders focus more on change. I think leaders basically influence and inspire us to make positive changes. So we can think about it this way. Managers represent stability, leaders represent change. And we kind of need both, but it doesn't always happen. If you go to the next slide, sometimes we have over-management and under-led. So we have too much stability, not enough change. And of course, that's not good. The world these days is changing very quickly, and we need to keep up. Our customer needs and wants change. So we need to have the proper balance between stability and change. The other extreme, if you go to the next slide, sometimes we face being over-led but under-managed. In that case, there's just so much change going on. It's confusing, it's frustrating. There's not enough stability. It's kind of like this period we're going through now. You know, there's just so much change. People are being laid off. They're closing restaurants and gyms, and all sorts of things are happening. And it's just so much to absorb. It's too much. I was reading about one company that was implementing 18 different change initiatives at the same time. And the employees were just overwhelmed. They just couldn't keep up with the demands and the priorities, and it was just too much. So stability is not a bad thing. We need some stability in our lives. So I think one suggestion I have going through the current crisis is try to come up with some little routines that will stabilize things a little bit, like, you know, every day go for a walk at 2 o'clock, or, you know, just some structure in your day that will provide some stability. We need that. That's important. So the big idea there is we need the proper balance between being a manager and a leader. Both are important, both are needed. Now, in my career, I have studied and interviewed lots and lots of managers, and I've found basically that there are 3 styles of leading. And if you go to the next slide, the 3 styles are these 3. And they're pretty simple, but very important to use, and we use them all the time. Directing, discussing, and delegating. So those 3 I find are used all the time, and I think we can boil it down to just those 3. I think it's important that, as I say, each leader knows not only what to do, but how to do it and when to do it for each style. So let's talk a little bit about each one of those. So
Absolutely.
if you go to the next slide on directing.
It's coming. I'm sorry. It's taking a minute.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Oops. There we go.
So with directing, the leader is telling the person, you know, what to do, how to do it, when to have it done by. Hopefully the employee or the follower is listening and then going to carry out the directions as they were told. The leader does most of the talking, and of course the employee or follower hopefully is doing all the listening. It sounds pretty easy, sounds pretty simple, but in reality, sometimes, you know, leaders are too direct, or in other cases, they're not direct enough. There's a fine line there between being too direct and not direct enough. So we got to make sure we're providing the right style and tone and direction in our message to the employee. The next style is discussing. If you go to the next slide, here the manager or leader rather is simply asking questions. You know, what should we do? What are the options? What are the problems? What's the cost benefit analysis of each approach? When do we need to have this implemented by? So in essence, they're engaging people to get their thoughts and their ideas. The leader really isn't telling them anything, but asking them, what do they think? What do they see? What are the options? This can be done one-on-one, of course, or it can be done in a group setting like the picture shows here. The problem I see with this style sometimes is some leaders get involved with too much discussion. You know, we've all been in those meetings where it goes on and on and on. At some point, you got to make a decision, right? At some point, you got to decide who is going to do what by when. At the other extreme, some leaders don't do enough discussion. They very quickly make a decision. Go back to the last one.
Sorry.
They very quickly make decisions without involving people, so people feel left out. They feel like they didn't have a voice, they didn't have a chance to contribute, and that's not good. So they don't have a lot of buy-in. So that's an issue. The third style is delegating. You know, kind of like when we give someone the car keys, we're empowering them. We're giving them the power and authority to take action, make decisions, you know, get the job done. This style is appropriate when people know basically what to do and how to do it. The problem that occurs sometimes is some leaders want to hold on to everything. You know, they don't delegate enough. At the other extreme, some leaders keep delegating to that superstar employee who gets the job done, so they keep giving that employee more and more and more work. So they get burnt out, and that's not good. We need to find the proper point at which we're delegating the right amount to the right person at the right time. That's critical. So if we kind of put this all together in this next slide, it kind of integrates the three styles. When we're directing, we're telling the person or showing them what to do, giving them a roadmap. When we discuss, we're asking questions or facilitating the discussion to get their involvement and input into what we should do and the plan and approach and that type of thing. And finally, when we delegate, we empower and or affirm the person. We give them the authority to take action. We tell them we believe that they'll get it done correctly. We build their confidence, so to speak. So all three styles are a little bit different, and they require different skill sets, and they emphasize different parts of the overall leadership process.
I have a quick question. So in this world where a lot of us I've worked remotely for years now, but a lot of people are working remotely for the first time ever. And a lot of managers and leaders are leading a remote team for the first time ever. So possibly they're a very direct leader in person, but now what do they do? Like, what shifts do we need to make as leaders and managers in this new work world?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think that all three styles still need to be used even in this remote world that we live in today. For example, there are some topics and some issues where you want to have a discussion with your employee about what they think and what approach to use and that type of thing. There are other topics and other situations where you need to direct them because it has to be done a certain way and certain steps have to be followed. And thirdly, there's other things where you can tell, just delegate. I want you to take care of this and let them figure it out and let them determine what to do and how to do it and that type of thing. So I think whether you're working in an office building or remotely, you use all three styles, and you got to figure out what style makes the most sense for the situation that I'm in. Does that make sense?
It definitely does. And I'm thinking about a specific email that has been called out in some articles that came from the Wall Street Journal that seemed like they were trying to over direct while people were working from home. And this may be a time where we have to do maybe just a bit more delegation.
Maybe delegate a little bit more. Yeah, you're right. There's a fine line there between too much or too little in each of these styles, So you got to find out where you need to be on that spectrum of options. What's going to help the person the most, which kind of gets us to the next slide. Next point is really, when do you use each style? Like a good doctor, you have to diagnose the situation. The person, are they able to do the task? Are they willing? Are they motivated? How much is on their plate currently? Are they stressed out currently and they really can't take on anything else? So, what's the situation like? And after diagnosing the situation, then you decide what style will make the most sense. And if you go to the next slide, it kind of, back one, it's kind of like if you conclude the person needs skills and knowledge and some direction, of course you got to direct them. You got to tell them what to do. That's not bad. People want direction at times. They need direction. At other times, you may find that it's best to engage them through the right discussions. You want their input. You want to hear what they have to say. They might be closer to the issue or problem or customer than you are. So engaging them and their thoughts, their ideas, their approach is really important. Or, as we said a minute ago, you might want to just delegate. You might want to just let them run with the ball and let them do what they think best and empower them. So the right style depends on the situation, the person's needs, what's going to help them the most grow and develop and get the job done.
So as leaders and managers, we need to have all three styles
Yes.
and be
Yep. That's why
shifting
I
through
say,
them.
yeah, I think you need to you use all three all the time. I mean, this is not earth-shattering or
Yeah.
something you're not aware of. You do this now, it kind of frames it a little bit and simplifies a little bit. But I think every single day, leaders use all three styles. Matter of fact, in many meetings that you're in, you see the leader using all three styles. So they're very relevant and common, and we need to be good at using each one. And as I tried to point out earlier, there's some nuances and issues around where do I need to be in the spectrum of options I have in front of me, and when do I close down the discussion, or when do I open it up more? And am I over delegating to some employees and under delegating to some other employees? So there's a lot of little issues that it sounds easy, but it's more complicated or more challenging than it sounds, I guess.
Right. And I'm guessing that we often lean into one area, maybe more than others.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'm a discussing leader and I
Mhm.
have more challenge being direct or any of those combinations. What do you do when you know you have a strength in one spot and you stay there and you
Mhm.
really need to exercise the other areas of leadership? How do you grow those?
Great question. We all have a comfort zone. We all have a style and approach that we've used a lot. We like it. It's comfortable for us. That may be great in certain situations, but I think to really be a fully effective leader, you need to use all three. The more you develop your people and the more you delegate, it frees your time up to do other things. So you got to step back. We all need to reflect on occasion and think about what style am I using too much or too little of, and what do I need to adjust? And could I delegate more here, for example, and that'll help me do XYZ, more strategic planning, more time developing maybe some other employees, things like that.
I think it's, I think we all get very comfortable. It's easy to get comfortable, and it's sometimes hard to see where you might need some help. So this is certainly helpful. I'm clearly seeing the areas I lean into and the ones I shy away from.
And if you have a coach or mentor too, sure, that person can provide some feedback. Even your direct reports, you can ask them, I've been directing over here. Should I delegate more, or should I empower you more here in this area to just run with the ball? So getting feedback, of course, is very important to find out where are you doing too much of or too little of, and what tweaks to your approach might help your employee perform better. And it's really about the employee, right? I mean, we're really trying to help them grow and develop and perform at their best. So we want to use a style that's going to be most helpful. I find a lot of leaders think something is bad or awful about directing other people, and it's not. At times we need direction. We want someone to say, okay, here's the goal, this is what you need to do, here are the steps. But that's not always the case. Other times we want to be told, here's the issue, you take care of it, you make it happen, you do your best work, go for it. So yeah, we got to use the right style.
And right now, again, a lot of people are working remotely for the first time ever, and it can be frightening and feel lonely. And as leaders and managers, what can we give them? How can we approach our leadership and management maybe in a different way during this time to support people who are trying to do their best work, but also dealing with incredible stress?
Well, I think we can have short check-in meetings with them, little mini discussions, maybe every morning a 10-minute discussion on, what are their tasks of the day and what are they working on or things like that, or where might they need help, that type of thing. So checking in more often, I think, is a good thing. Asking them what would help them. Do they need more structure in some areas? Do they need to be given more power or authority in other areas? That type of thing could be helpful. So yeah, it's not easy. It's everyone's out of their comfort zone to some extent, but checking in with them, getting their feedback can help you figure out what you need to do more of or less of.
So it's that communication that's so
Yeah.
important right now.
Yeah.
It's so critical.
Well, probably these days, more communication is needed. We need to touch base and check in more frequently maybe than we did a month ago.
Yeah. And as leaders, that's really important for us to know, because we're all dealing with it in a different way, but to really be aware of how our teams are handling all of this stress is critical.
Yes.
Well, Paul, this has really been fascinating. And I know you have one more slide. I'll go ahead and get you there. I've gotten us off track with some remote work questions, but it's, I'm really enjoying hearing about these different styles, and I'll let you summarize a bit.
Yeah, the big idea for me is, leaders, as I said, influence and inspire us to make positive changes. And that's great, that's good. To be the best leader you can be, I think you need to use a style that's going to fit the needs of the situation. So we want to use a leadership style that will help people make the required changes. As I said, leadership is more about inspiring and influencing change. So we want to help people grow and change and that type of thing. Sometimes they need some direction. Sometimes you need to involve them and get their thoughts and ideas. Other times you need to just empower them. So using the right style will help them grow and develop and be a better performer, more knowledgeable, better accomplished, etc.
Yeah, that's terrific and really helpful. And from our chat, Joanne shared, going back to our check-ins that you were mentioning, that it's important to acknowledge contributions and let people know how valuable they are. And I think you're saying the same thing. And I think that it's good to remember that.
Very true.
And Paul, as our time is winding down, I'd love for people to know more about you. We talked about the 15 books that you have, but I know you have some other resources and books that might benefit people during this challenging time. Do you want to share more?
Sure. I have produced a number of videos that are on YouTube. So people can go to YouTube, put my name in, and there's like 28 different short videos on management leadership topics. Some of those might be beneficial to people. There's one on actually leadership or management styles. I also have written 2 books that might be of use. This one here is Precise Leaders Get Results. I think to lead these days, you do need to be precise about the changes that need to be made. And the other book that you mentioned earlier that's coming out in May is this idea about finding your sweet spot. On a lot of leadership activities, we can do too much coaching or not enough coaching. As I said before, too much delegation or not enough delegation. Your sweet spot is that spot on the continuum that's going to make the biggest impact and produce the best results. So again, all of these books and articles and videos, will hopefully give you some ideas and thoughts about how you can improve your leadership style so you can make a bigger impact and help your people be more successful. And really, that's the name of the game.
It definitely is. And you can also, Paul, you said in addition to the YouTube videos, they could email you directly. And that's
yes.
Would you like to go ahead and share your email address?
Sure. My email address is pthornton, that's P Thornton, THORNTON, at stcc.org. So that's my email. If you have any questions or thoughts or ideas or other information you'd like to share and I can be of assistance, email me at that email address. Again, it's pthornton@stick.edu.
And we have that in the chat for you right now, and you'll get an email follow-up that'll also have Paul's information. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And everyone who's on the line, thank you so much. We're grateful that you joined us, and we hope you'll tune in tomorrow. You'll get an email from Becky in the morning with links to tomorrow's guest and a preview of the content. We hope you'll join us there. And then just to tell you a little bit more about Weaving Influence, since some of you are new to us, we are a digital marketing and media agency that supports authors, thought leaders, and training consulting companies. We've also served nonprofits and other purpose-driven organizations. And in the event that any of us, our team, could support you in planning and executing digital marketing strategies for yourself or for your organization in the future, you can please email us. You can email me at christykirk@weavinginfluence.com, or you can email Becky at becky@weavinginfluence.com. And we hope to hear from you. And again, we're so grateful to all of you who joined us today, to Erica, who is our chat host, and to Paul for being our very special guest. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christy.